TrueFoundry offers an enterprise-grade AI gateway that enables security, governance, and observability of AI workloads. Now let's see a quick demo in action. The first thing is we will see the playground feature where you can quickly prototype your agents and publish them as an agent app. Here you can select the different models. These have already been integrated, so it will be very easy to switch across these within the playground. Let me just pick OpenAI GPT-4o Mini. And you can also select the parameters of the model like max tokens, reasoning effort, temperature streaming, as well as advanced parameters. Now let me ask a simple question. Because streaming mode is true, you will see that the response is streaming. And at the end, you will also see the number of tokens which were consumed, which is total number of tokens input plus output, as well as the request latency. Further, if you want to enable MCP tools, you can click on MCP servers. There are some common tools which are available and offered by default, like web search, code executor, sandbox, and so on. But whatever MCP servers have been registered onto the gateway will also show up here, and you can pick and select different tools across different MCP servers. So now I have selected these two tools, and whatever prompts I ask next will take into account the access of these MCP tools. Similarly, you can also add guardrails. For example, I can add an Azure PIA guardrail as an input guardrail and a content safety guardrail as an output guardrail. And when I ask questions, all of these will be taken into account. The other thing is the cache config, which is very important in production. If same request is getting to the LLM multiple times, you do not want the higher cost to be incurred. So either you can enable a semantic cache where you need to mention a similarity threshold and the time to live, or an exact match cache which just uses a hash-based approach to do the exact match. There are other features like structured output generation, where you can have the structured output generation schema, as well as the metadata, which is required to tag the requests with a specific metadata useful in later debugging and filtering for traces. Alright, so let's say you have done a lot of experimentation and you want to save this entire configuration. You can go to the save new prompt, which will save this entire configuration on the playground as a prompt template. You can select an existing repository, which has to be backed by a blob storage, and just save it. So this particular prompt template has now been saved under the prompt registry. On the left hand side, if you navigate to prompts, you will see that this is the specific one that we just saved. And all of these configurations will be available. You will also see the version history of the different prompts, and you can also try out the prompt. Now the playground is not just a UI based approach. You can also see the code snippets across different frameworks to get started. You can see OpenAI, where you need three things: the base URL of the gateway, the model ID from the gateway, as well as the unique API key, which is the personal access token of the developer or user of the gateway. The standard OpenAI client library is used for all purposes, and all of the endpoints are OpenAI compatible, offered through a unified API with a single API key, which is this particular personal access token. For additional configurations, you will see all of them mentioned as extra metadata like login config, guardrails, and even the MCP servers. Now let's navigate to how you can add models. So there are multiple options of adding models across model providers, as well as getting your own self-hosted models through your own deployments or through, let's say, SageMaker Jumpstart deployments. Adding an account is important for role-based access control, where let me show you an existing configuration where you can add collaborators who is the admin of that model account and who can use that model account. And within a model account, you can add multiple models. Let me show you that in action. Let me add this particular model. Once you have selected it, you can test the credentials to make sure that this particular model is active, and there will be a connection test which will run. You'll see that it has passed, and you can continue, and you can put the access control for that particular account, and you can change it. Because I'm an admin, so I can change it, but users will not be able to do that. Further, you can also see that the cost is auto-populated, but if you want to edit the cost, you can select the private cost metric and you can enter the specific cost per token that you have in mind. The exact same process will be done for self-hosted models as well, where all these three models have actually been deployed on TrueFoundry and have been linked through the gateway. You can deploy your own models anywhere you like. Then there's a concept of virtual models where routing will occur in the background. For example, if an application is using Cloud Haiku 4.5, what's happening here is a priority-based routing, where by default, the Bedrock endpoint of Cloud Haiku 4.5 will be used always, and only if that fails, the Claude Sonnet 4.6 endpoint from Anthropic will be used as a fallback option. Similarly, there's a latency-based option where the fastest model across these two will always be used if an application is using the Claude Opus 4.6 virtual model. And lastly, there's a weight-based routing where if an application is using Claude Sonnet 4.6, this particular virtual model name, 80% of the traffic will go to the Bedrock endpoint and 20% of the traffic will go to the GPT-5 endpoint. This is all configurable as per the requirements. There are other capabilities where you can add more information like override headers, where if you're switching models, you can also switch the prompt versions across the two models because different prompts are compatible with different models. You can add number of retries and also metadata filters as well. Next, there are policies like rate limiting and budget limiting, which can be added and configured. This is a new rate limiting rule form where you can enter the rule ID. You can enter the subjects, which can be users, teams, or virtual accounts, which are just analogous to service accounts. And you can apply the limits at different units like requests per day, hour, minute, and similarly for tokens. Further, these rules can be applied at any of these two levels as well. So you can select user model or model virtual account and so on. Similarly, there can be rules configured for budget limiting where you can add rules and you can select the rules for users, models, virtual accounts, or metadata, and also the units at cost per month, cost per week, or cost per day. Further, you can block the usage if the limit is exceeded. And you can also have alerts sent on specific budget milestones and have notifications sent to different channels like email, Slack webhook, or Slackbot. Note that both of these policies observe a first matching rule principle where the first matching rule for an incoming request is always checked. And if that is matched, then all other rules are ignored. So the order is very important when setting up these policies. Next, let's come to guardrails, where this is a guardrails registry where you can add new guardrails group for access control, and within those you can add different guardrails as well. So there are a lot of different guardrails which are provided, such as TrueFoundry guardrails like secrets detection, code safety linter, SQL sanitizer, and so on, which come out of the box with TrueFoundry. And then a lot of integrations with Acto, Bedrock, Azure, Palo Alto, and so on. And you can also bring your own custom guardrails and integrate them through the gateway. There are different modes, validate and mutate. Validate means that the request will be blocked, and mutate means that the request will be mutated or it will be changed. Similarly, there are policies for guardrails which enable where the guardrail should be applied. So if the guardrail is getting applied at a models level, let's say I pick all models, I can add a hook at an LLM input or an LLM output, but you can also select MCP servers. And let's say you want to do it only for the common tools. I can add an MCP tool pre-invoke hook or a post-invoke hook. Next, you can also monitor everything that is happening through the gateway. For example, there are detailed metrics for an overview dashboard, like an executive view, model metrics, where you can view by models, virtual models, users, virtual accounts, teams, and any metadata that you have mentioned. Metrics like request per second, request failure rate, request failures breakdown, and so on are shown within the monitoring tab. You can also export this for further analysis. Similarly, there are metrics for MCP as well as guardrail metrics, as well as routing metrics. Note that we have done the MCP Gateway demo in a separate video with much more depth, so make sure to check it out if you are interested in the MCP Gateway side of things. Other than the monitoring metrics, you can also see the detailed request traces within the request traces tab, where all of this is OpenTelemetry compatible. You can also export these OTel logs to another platform like New Relic or Datadog and just set up that particular flow. Further, these can also be fetched via API. Now, these logs have been enriched with certain additional metadata. For example, if I click this, you can see the cost, input tokens, output tokens, but you will also be able to add your own metadata and be able to filter for those particular traces. Further, you can also set data access rules, who can access the monitoring data like metrics and traces. and also data routing rules, which defines where those traces are actually getting stored, either in your own storage as a customer or within the control plane itself. One last concept is this concept of agent registry, where all of the agents are actually registered, and this enables multi-agent workflows. For example, you can bring your own A2A hosted agent, or you can also have an agent published through a saved prompt template, which has all the configurations required to build the agent. Once this is created, you can click on try, and you will get a screen up where you can share this link with any user, and if they are integrated within your IDP, they should be able to access it. Note that all of the configurations have been removed here, and this is primarily for user acceptance testing. In a nutshell, the AI Gateway provides a lot of capabilities to add different model providers, guardrails, rate limiting and budget limiting rules, as well as do extensive observability through monitoring metrics and request traces, as well as data residency through data access and data routing rules, all in one place, which is very useful for enterprises to have governed and secured AI workloads. Thank you for watching.